So Lucy Letby was retried, or had one retrial last week. She was found guilty again of the 7th attempted murder. Her life sentence has been reaffirmed. But despite all that, Luke, there's been a kind of growing movement saying that actually she's innocent. And it's not just on the sort of fringes of the internet. You're starting to see The Guardian, The Telegraph asking questions about this verdict. It started really with The New Yorker, which we weren't allowed to talk about because of our contempt of court laws, because that came out in the middle of her retrial. But what have you made of this? I mean, surely she's guilty. I mean,
yeah, she's guilty. I would say this. I mean, I professionally look into criminal convictions. I appeal criminal convictions and look into the evidence that was used to convict people. And what I think has been striking has been the speed at which people are willing to reject the finding of a jury. So a jury sat and listened to months and months and months of very, very complicated medical evidence about what took place at the County of Chester Hospital. The first jury were very, very considered in their verdict, rejecting some counts, and accepting others. There was a retrial in which she was convicted again. And I think people are making a very serious mistake in thinking this was a case that was all about statistics. It wasn't. It was a case about circumstantial evidence. And circumstantial evidence effectively means that there is a patchwork of circumstances that point to a particular person's guilt. There was no direct evidence of what Lucy Letby had done, but that's not surprising given what was alleged. And there is some really key central points about the evidence against her, which is often glossed over. So, for example, there was uncontested evidence during the trial that babies were poisoned with insulin by someone on that ward. Now, you can bet your bottom dollar that the lawyers defending Letby would have investigated the possibility of any other occurrence, that this was something innocent, this was something accidental, this was something negligent. They would have approached everyone that they possibly could, but still had to accept that babies were poisoned with insulin. Now, it might be the case that in years to come, that the evidence used to establish that fact that babies were poisoned with insulin on that hospital might be overturned, and we'd have to look at the case again. But the fact is that there was very, very strong evidence that someone was doing harm to babies on that ward. And then you take a step back and look at the other patchwork of evidence that was against Letby for, looking at the statistics, which, although are limited in their probative value, do give some indication as to what was going on. And then the evidence about the hiding notes in her room, medical records on behalf of the children, searching the families of the children that she'd harmed on Facebook, writing handwritten notes about, saying, I'm evil, I did this. All of this is a patchwork.
Yeah.
And what I think people should do is, rather than read those Guardian articles or the Telegraph article, go and read the far longer Court of Appeal decision which rejected her application for leave, because they go through all the evidence on every single one of the counts, and it's 40 pages long or so. If you can go through that line by line and say that this is clearly mistaken for some reason, then maybe you have a point. But I think the reason it was troubling is that there is sensible questioning about criminal convictions. There are reasonable questions that you should ask, and people should always remain open to the possibility that something has gone wrong. But what I think we've seen with Lucy Letby is an unhelpful and corrosive skepticism of our processes of justice. And that's not helpful, because we're actually just distrusting what the jury found. We're assuming that the jury were too stupid to figure it out. And I think that's a big mistake.
And may I ask as well, because I'm slightly unaware of all the arguments, shall we say, on the kind of Letby skeptic part of social media and journalism. But what is their claim then of what actually took place? Is it there's another killer, or is it that this is negligence being covered up? Because it's a bit hard to tell, not least when you've got loads of people pontificating at once, I suppose. But if there was a thread that seems to,
I think the theory is that this was negligence that is being blamed on someone. One reason why that makes absolutely no sense is that it's equally as negligent for the County of Chester Hospital to have housed a serial killer than it is to have let these babies die. So why would you invent a serial killer amongst your own midst in order to make yourself look better? It certainly doesn't.
And that seems to be part of the claim, at least in some of those pieces, that was it the New York piece, the NHS is like a national religion, therefore they're going to want to cover it up. Is it better that you had a serial killer on the rampage?
Yeah, and we would all tolerate the cover-up, right? We would all just say, well, of course, well, the NHS can do no wrong, therefore it must have been
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I just think it goes to that unpleasant skepticism that takes reasonable inquiry and reasonable doubt into quite a dark place.